Hello and welcome to DEE Digital Era Entertainment's weekly anime podcast. This is episode number 176. I'm one of your hosts, Joel, and joining me live on the line from Rhode Island Comic Con. Ignore if the audio is a bit more scuffy than usual. It's Jace.
That's right, from the home of Peter Griffin, Rhode Island Comic Con, Providence, Rhode Island.
Yes, that due to obviously there being a bunch of crowds around, the audio is going to fluctuate a little bit. That's something we're accepting for today. This is a big experiment for us that we're going to go through our normal sort of opening segment, talk about the stuff we've been watching lately. But then for the second part of the episode, we're going to actually have Jace walk through the dealer's hall. We're going to just see if there's any cool cosplays, any cool merch, and just sort of enjoy the convention. We've never done something like this before, and we don't have too much of a plan. So we hope you'll join us for this journey. For those who are audio only, I will do my best to have the descriptions. That way, also, Jace isn't going to have to be doing the awkward talking to himself bit as much once we're actually in the hall. He's currently, from what I understand, sort of squirreled away in one of the hallways to, one, minimize the noise for at least this opening segment, and also, once again, just to make it seem like he's on a call with a friend and not talking to himself. Or, sometimes folks get a bit stressed if they think they're on camera. But yeah, so this will be fun.
Yeah.
But here we are, about not quite halfway through the fall season, and I brutally cut 2 shows from my slate this past week, and it's kind of sad and kind of eye-opening to see what they were, because they were 2 continuing shows, and they were 2 of the shows that I had the highest praise for last season. I have dropped both Helk and Dark Gathering for separate reasons. Dark Gathering, I realized I was watching it out of pseudo obligation, that I recognize it is a good horror show and that it's doing all of its tropes well. It's got very good world building. It's got really creepy monsters. The characters are nice, but that in the end, it's still just not a genre that I'm super compelled by. And that last season, when we were kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel and I saw something of good quality in a genre that I don't normally go for, I was more than happy to watch along. It was something that I liked. And I even commented last season, okay, I sort of feel like it's a bit slow, but, I'm enjoying it. It's good. And this week, I just sort of hit that breaking point with so many shows on my slate still. It's like 15 or something. And
Yeah.
that I wasn't super excited to tune in. So I've dropped it, but it is one that I do maintain its quality, and that if you are a horror fan, that I will point people to. I'm not sure if you
Yeah.
are still watching, Jace.
I'm still watching. 18, what is it, 17 episodes, I think, right now, out of, I think, what will be a
25,
24
I believe,
or
somewhere
25
around there.
episode run. I'm invested in the show. And OLM, of course, most well known for doing Pokemon. So, of course, it dawned on me recently that this is just Pokemon for horror fans, as we literally
They
have
are
Pokemon
catching
type
them all.
battles.
They are trying to
Yeah.
catch them all. Huh.
Yeah, she is catching spirits in these stuffed animals.
And she's like 10
And
years old or something. Perfect age for a Pokemon trainer.
exactly. Yeah, like we are literally seeing the origins of Hexmaniac.
Oh my God, you're right.
Um,
I guess that makes the other folks either the professors or gym leaders, probably the professors. I don't know.
yeah,
She's more knowledgeable than them, frankly. But
and
anyways, yeah,
so
I dropped that one, and it really just goes to show the difference of how much the different seasons and what is being
yeah,
broadcast makes an impact on what someone like me watches and what other people watch. The other one,
yeah,
Helk, which, we opened last season saying Helk is hilarious, it's funny, it's quirky. This was something that usually when we get to the anime of the year list, that somewhere in the 8, 9, 10 slot, we usually have a comedy in there. And I was
I
eyeing
think it's
Helk.
going to be it's going to wind up in a runner-up slot because it's still good, but it's hitting a mid-season rut.
The problem that
And
I had, I started having problems with it around episode 8, 9, 10. That when we first were raving about the show, it was a big comedy. It was almost a genre parody of this overpowered guy just completely running through this demon lord tournament, baffling the other demon lords who were trying to get in his way or stack the deck against him. And it was fun and silly. And there was a couple comments of some world building that seemed interesting enough. But then we started to just go into what I consider, frankly, a very par for the course to even a bit below par fantasy story. That once they left that Coliseum and that next Demon Lord competition, they started moving from comedy to gritty and angsty. And the past 4 episodes have been backstory. And I don't mind getting backstory in the middle of the show. Sometimes that can actually be more compelling. The problem that I had was that after the 4 episodes, I didn't feel like I had learned anything of true significance about the characters or the world. That, yes, it filled in a couple of blanks, gave us a couple of scenes to, I suppose, justify emotions. But in the end, we already knew the king was bad. We already knew that all of the heroes were having their emotions stripped from them. We didn't necessarily know, oh, there was this one person who was important in Helk's childhood who then wound up being one of the proponents of this project. But I don't think that actually matters.
See,
And
this
just
this week
that's
this
4
week hit
episodes. If it was 1
hard.
or 2, maybe, but 4 episodes to ultimately amount to nothing
There's
and just
there's
justify
still
more
one
angst.
more episode. There's still
Oh
one
my
more episode of
god.
freaking backstory next week. But at
No,
least
forget it.
this week at least hit hard with the one moment that had me going, "Oh my god, the sword. The sword that she wields, his friend that he cared about, actually is the sword that can harm heroes."
Yeah, that was
And the sword
nice. That
and
moment was not worth 5 episodes.
it gets used against him, and while the sword breaks, that shard of sword, it here's the kicker. Helk claims that he killed his brother. That's what he says when we first meet him in the storyline, only to find out in all of this backstory that his brother actually killed himself. I
Yeah,
was
it
like,
was meh. That
that was a bit of a twist that did catch me off guard.
it was
That had me going, whoa!
it
Like,
it was good. I don't think it was worth 4 or 5 episodes. If it was 1 or 2, maybe, but also just like I said, we are now in full gritty, angsty, everything. There's no
I
semblance of that
feel
comedy that drew me in. And I understand I've sung the praises of Megalobox that has had drastically different tones from season to season, but I feel like when you look back on Helk, we lost that comedy pretty much somewhere around, like I said, episodes 8, 9, 10, and just a while it was a above average comedy, it's perhaps the analogy here is Devil is a Part-Timer. Devil is a Part-Timer was a distinctly above average comedy and a below average fantasy show, and that's what Helk is.
I'm seeing an idea actually, like, because Jujutsu Kaisen did this thing where we had a very brief, almost OVA sized arc with, a flashback to Gojo's backstory,
Yes.
and I kind of liked that how there was even a brief pause of a few weeks before they came back to the show. It gave you a bit of a breather to kind of digest it. And I thought about that for a second, and I thought, what if Helk had that kind of breather with these arcs or something like that? What if Helk had not been a 24 episode great show, and that it aired in 12 episode cuts or in like several distinct arcs,
I think my issue is that Jujutsu Kaisen has been tonally consistent, that the tone that it had during that flashback matches the tone that it has had in its present and basically throughout its run of just it is not really angsty or comedy, that it's more of just a proper action show, but that it has that
Yeah.
consistency and it does what it does well. And the more I think
Mhm.
about it, the more I'm really falling on that analogy of Devil as a Part-Timer of it did one genre well and did the other genre not very well. But I'm glad that
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
enjoying it at least. I will definitely say it's not even going to make the runner-up category for me anymore. Honorable mentions. I might give an honorable mention to Dark Gathering, though. We'll see about that.
Okay.
Other
Yeah.
things,
I
I'm
mean,
just sorry.
I will say probably the show that continues to shine for me. I know you dropped it, but I will continue to give it a shining shout out week after week. Is 16-bit. It is continuing to be like my pick me up after something has me going, wow, damn! Like after I've had a dark moment in a show, I will turn to 16-bit sensation, and that'll be my pick me up.
16-bit was one that I've said I didn't think it was bad. It didn't hit for me. It was a bit too slow, but I can
Yeah,
understand that some folks want that pacing. I acknowledge 16-bit sensation as a show that is what it wants to be. It is not what I want in my viewing right now. But
yeah,
that's one that if you were to push for that in the honorable mentions or even the 8, 9, 10 slot of the top 10, I would not necessarily push back against you on that. I'd probably
yeah.
push
Because
against Helk. Like I said, I wouldn't push against Dark Gathering, wouldn't push against 16-bit. I think that it has a lot
what
of charm.
what got me was actually a favorite channel of mine on YouTube, Basement Brothers, who covers PC 88 and PC 98 games from Japan, from the computers of that era. Actually gave 16-bit sensation a shout out in their most recent video, actually.
Well, that's neat.
So
Also, one that I'm going to pick up over the weekend, which I've seen rated extremely highly on Mal, and that our good friend Emmy has mentioned she has a hand in, is the Apothecary Diaries. That I was checking Mal just the other day because I was checking something else, and that Apothecary Diaries for the seasonal anime is ranked. Let me double check this. It is ranked third, only below
I've heard
Free
things
Ren
about that
and
too.
and Eminence and Shadow. It is ranked
Mm,
above Dr. Stone, Spy Family, Undead Unluck, Shangri-La Frontier. Shangri-La Frontier has a very high rating. It's got an 8. I didn't
wow.
actually expect it to get that high rating, but that apparently a lot of people are liking this one, so that is enough to turn my head. I will be looking at that one. This
I'll have to
weekend
check it out.
This weekend is a very momentous occasion also. It is the end of Attack on Titan in under 24 hours, at least in Japan. There will probably be a slight variation on when it gets uploaded to Crunchyroll, but we are having Attack on Titan, the final season, the final chapters, special number 2. That is the official title. That it is
That's it.
final
We
season,
swear at
the
this
final
point.
chapters, special 2.
Uh,
But I'm
yeah,
really excited for it. I'm genuinely excited for it. It's going to be really good. The special one, like I said, some of the best animation and most brutal animation I've ever seen. I can only assume that they are going to bring it home strong. So it it's kind of a big deal. This is a decade-long show. Yes, it had sort of a 4-year hiatus in the middle, and it's obviously abused its titling mechanics, but goodness knows, Attack on Titan, that one of our good friends of the channel, Adam Sheehan, who worked at Funimation at the time, now is at Crunchyroll, that he told me at one of the conventions that I was working with him, he said, I haven't seen people react to a show like this since Full Metal Brotherhood. That it was
wow.
a show that hit mainstream. Goodness knows, the opening song, everyone was hearing it. People who weren't into anime got into Attack on Titan because it was something different and brutal and big and splashy. It had good twists. And I think that it was a bit underserved by the fact that it had such a hiatus between seasons 1 and 2, but it has certainly kept strong. It has kept its popularity, certainly at least within the anime spheres. It has dwindled somewhat in the mainstream, but the fact that it got there, even for a moment, really says something about it from a historical standpoint and just a cultural standpoint. And I am excited to see this journey come to an end. I think that they have done a very good job with the show that even if it has been slow to release, that what has been put out has always been high quality. And hats off to the different teams because it's been passed around between a couple of studios. Memory serves, it was Production IG initially that had it and then handed off to Mappa somewhere around season 3. And Mappa, obviously, one of the bigger names right now in the industry, has treated it with the respect and quality that it deserves. So that's what I will be watching this weekend, most certainly.
This weekend I will most likely, well, in between recovering from my trip to Comic-Con, I will probably be watching Onimusha as that drops this weekend on Netflix.
Also, I've heard really good things about Pluto, and I'm like, oh no, come on. Like, remember, I work for Netflix. It was like, why? Why do you need, I already have so much on my slate. Why couldn't we have released this last month or a couple months ago?
Well, yeah, no, that literally dropped a few weeks ago. And of course, I kept an eye on it because I am friends with somebody who is a Tezuka scholar. And I'm like, of course, kind of tuned into that because I also enjoy Tezuka's works, especially I am a big fan of Blackjack myself, but Astro Boy, of course, is one of the most influential works of all time. So this being tied into Astro Boy,
and I've heard that you don't need to know or have watched any Astro Boy prior to enjoy Pluto, which is a big deal.
No, this is inspired by, but not actually required. So it's I if I can fit this in, because most things come out on the weekends, and I am mostly caught up. I still also have my Toku shows. Thankfully, Ultraman is an off week this week because it is their obligatory clip show week. So I will skip this week's episode of Ultraman, but I still have to catch up on, of course, King Oger and and Kamen Rider Gotchard on top of it all. So,
I think between your regular Toku and wrestling shows, I think you watch as much as I do in a given week. It's just that I'm watching my anime.
I'm watching 18 animes right now because
you might be beating me then.
I didn't drop Helk or Dark Gathering.
I think you actually do have more than me at this point. And there's a couple that I'm eyeing potentially dropping that Kemono Hashiron I'm still thoroughly enjoying, as just like I've said many times, I just enjoy mysteries. It might fall through the cracks just as a matter of practicality. We'll see.
It's just a matter of whether or not I can actually keep up with everything. I happen to have a job that is lenient enough that I can, squeak in watching things.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's been just, the season has lived up to the hype very much in so many ways, and that there's a lot of shows that are just delivering big time that we're not even really talking about right now, because I'm sure we're going to talk about them later, that a lot of the focus of the things that we've been dropping is not to say that things are bad across the board. It's because, all right, this is us doing their send-off effectively, because we don't anticipate talking much about them. But you'll be hearing us rave review more about, obviously, Jujutsu Kaisen, Eminence in Shadow, more about Firefighter Daigo, even if it has shonen level recaps, which I am not happy with, but the new content that we get is still very good. Shy, Free Ren, Spy Family all continue to deliver.
Props to Crunchyroll for finally starting to add skip intro, skip outro, and even skip recap buttons occasionally.
I have not seen a skip recap button yet, but I'm so excited for that.
The fact that some shows are even adding skip recap buttons.
That's
It doesn't appear every
beautiful.
time, but the fact that it does show up occasionally has me extremely excited because when you are watching 18 shows,
Those
oh my
3-4
God,
minutes
it is a
add up.
godsend.
It adds up.
Yes. Oh
And
my God.
I've
It
memorized
is
that, if you're running
it is
with
about as useful as being able to skip 5 minutes worth of commercials when watching BattleBots.
mhm. I've memorized the number of times I have to hit the forward button for when there isn't the skip intro button, that it's always 90-second
90
intros, so
seconds.
yep,
90
so
second intros. Yep.
depending on the player, that's either gonna be 9 forwards or 18. It's usually 18. I know that Crunchyroll's forward button deals in 5-second increments, so I just memorize and go 'cause, I
Depends
know I'm
on
a
if
bit of a
you
heretic, but
depends on how things are set up. Depends also on how good the intro is.
yeah,
Yeah,
but,
if the intro is a banger, I will listen to it every time. Like
it has to
Jujutsu
be.
Kaisen's opening, hell yeah.
I listened during the first episode and the last episode, and if the
Mm,
fancy hits me, maybe, but usually even the ones that I do like, I will skip, and if I just wanna hear them, I'll look them up on YouTube or something. But,
mm,
it's a minute and a half intro, minute and a half outro. That's 3 minutes per episode. Multiply that by however many shows you're watching, once again, it adds up
yeah,
very
yeah.
quickly. Alright, well, let's do this crazy experiment.
Let's get this going.
You are currently in the hallway, and like I said, I'm
Yep.
kinda gonna take over a fair bit of the talking right now because Discord's acting a little up for me that I can't. Uh-oh. 1 second.
Oh, oh,
1 second, it's just on my end, I'll be right back.
all right. Oh no. Well, anyway,
Okay, we're good. Yeah,
I
so
am here in front of a Rhode Island Comic Con banner.
by Cardi's, furniture and, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's a
well, they're one of the local sponsors
furniture
of
and
the
mattresses,
convention.
yes. Yeah, so
Yeah. Uh,
pop-up
let me.
lockers, I've seen them in a good couple of places, so I'll take over
It's
a good amount of the talking, that way you're not having to, you know, 1, talk to yourself or, create too much noise, but, I love it when the little kids cosplay. I wish my parents brought me to anime conventions when I was little. I am very
I
much
know.
someone who, my parents were supportive. My parents were not nerds. My father watched Star Trek. That was the extent of it for me. He was into Star Wars as well, but not, crazy diehard. He thoroughly enjoyed them. I think he said that he saw Empire like 10 times in theaters. It was a lot. But other than that, I really sort of had to strike my own path and discover cosplay and conventions for myself via friends. So here we have, this is one of those Comic Cons where you have a lot of voice actors, and Jace has mentioned that they had a lot of really high profile folks. Uh, I know that you actually set aside a budget for yourself for autographs. Have you gotten any already, or are those going to be later in the
Not
week?
yet. Because actually, some of the ones that I'm picking up are actually going to be tomorrow. Because they're not showing up until tomorrow.
Yeah, that did just
Um,
for efficiency, some of these VAs will only show up for a day or two, that they simply don't
uh,
have the time to walk around or
specifically,
be there.
specifically tomorrow, Kevin Eastman, co-creator of Ninja Turtles, will be
Mm.
here tomorrow and Sunday, and Amy Jo Johnson, Kimberly from Power Rangers, will be here Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, neat.
So yeah, those are the two big ones. Um, Mostly everybody else here is that I wanted to get is here all weekend. In fact, one of the people that I had posted about in the Discord just yesterday, Jim Cummings, is here this weekend
And I think you said
celebrating his
isn't
birthday.
his birthday? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just one of my favorite stories about Jim Cummings is that he very famously, during the recording for The Lion King, the voice of Scar is Jeremy Irons, who has just incredible, iconic voice. And that while recording Be Prepared, Scar's big song, there's the line, "You won't get a sniff without me." And
Yep.
that Irons delivered that line a little too strong and threw out his voice. and they were on a pretty tight production deadline. So they brought in Jim, who was playing Ed the Hyena, just
Yep.
and that in the final recording, it's so subtle. You need to try and hear it because Jim Cummings was that good at doing an impression of Jeremy Irons. Jim Cummings starting with the line, "So prepare for the coup of the century, be prepared for the murkiest skies." That's Jim Cummings, not Jeremy Irons.
I love actually the fact that a lot of voice actors, when they wind up taking over the role for somebody else, they will find a lead-in line to imitate somebody else.
Mhm.
And this is a story that a friend of mine, Dane, who also does impressions, had told me that Jim Cummings, who took over for the role of Winnie the Pooh from the original voice actor,
Mhm.
had overheard him at a restaurant ordering,
Oh,
and the
really?
guy had overheard him ordering clam chowder. So before he does the voice of Winnie the Pooh, he says, "I'll have the clam chowder."
I'll have the clam chowder.
Yeah, so basically, before going into the Winnie the Pooh voice, Jim Cummings every time, "I'll have the clam chowder."
Oh, that's fun.
Uh, yeah, this is actually one of
Yeah,
the
cool.
signing areas, actually.
Yeah, I can tell you're having to weave through a lot of folks that you might wanna actually get back to the retail areas. That way you're not,
Yeah,
impeding anything. That I've worked some of these areas and, the line management, you see all these folks in the bright blue shirts.
yep.
Shout out, as always, to volunteers and crew. They make these things run. There is so much that goes on behind the scenes at a
Oh, yeah.
convention prior to the event itself that you don't see, and even during the event itself, that is just, it takes a lot of people to put on an event of really any size. And that in the grand scheme of things, this is a smaller Comic Con that, if you had to spitball, what would you say this is? 2,000, 3,000, 5,000
Oh
attendees?
God, this is actually huge. As
Oh,
Rhode Island Comic Con calls itself, the biggest con in the smallest state. So now, granted,
now I'm
Hawaii
checking.
is technically the smallest
Yeah.
state, but
Now I'm curious. I'm
but
gonna try and look up and see if we can get a attendee count. Oh my goodness. What?
yeah,
What the heck? I'm seeing,
yeah, I
it
know.
has to be Turnstile. That has to be Turnstile, not Warm Bodies. I'm seeing that it, I'm just looking on Wikipedia right now, that it says the attendance last year was estimated at 100,000. Now, an interesting thing about conventions and how they report attendance can vary, because some will do what is called turnstile, and turnstile counts the number of people per day. So if you go to 3 days of a convention, by a turnstile count, you are three people. Three people attended that con. Turnstile counts, frankly, aren't used much, or rather, they are not considered to be good, true metrics because of this multiplication. That if it is that type of turnstile, you usually are going to estimate half is the actual number. Usually it's over a third, because obviously not everybody gets a 3 day badge to a 3 day con, but you are going to have to assume that there is obviously going to be the inflation of numbers there. So if it's a
I'll
hundred
tell you.
thousand,
I'll
the
tell you
other,
from experience. The first year I attended, which I think was like 2015, maybe 2014. I think it was 2015. Um, they actually shut the convention down due to issues with attendance. It was overcrowded.
huh? And that's interesting
Yeah,
because looking at the Wikipedia page,
it was
it
originally
says that
only
it's,
a 2 day con.
but it's always been in the Rhode Island Convention Center. Oh, I
Yep,
see. But it's also expanded to the Dunkin' Donuts Center, and in 2017 they expanded to the Omni Providence Hotel,
yep.
and to the Amica Mutual Pavilion, as you mentioned. So
Which
they are
is
now a
formerly the dunk. Yep.
multi-venue convention. So given that maybe it is just 100,000, like I mentioned, there's Turnstile and the other one is Warm Bodies. And Warm Bodies counts one person is one time. Warm Bodies usually does count staff and guests, but staff and guests are usually 1 to 2%. The actual amount of number inflation there is minimal. The quote unquote true number is badges sold, but that can sometimes get sketchy because if I can't buy a 3-day badge and I buy a Saturday and Sunday and Friday badge, then does that count as 3 badges? It's all kind of squirrely, but warm bodies is usually the best true number that you can get.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm
it's
now just learning that Rhode Island Comic Con is way bigger than I was aware. That's neat. And it does explain why they were able to get such high name voice actors that obviously most voice actors, if they are paid the right amount, will go to any convention on any given weekend so long as they don't have a pre existing conflict because they want to get paid. They don't care how many people show up. But at the same
I mean,
time,
I could
you know,
definitely relate to that. This is one of the big sponsors right here, Toy Vault. They're a local company with about, I think, 5 locations.
ooh, neat.
I worked for them at one point, actually, years
Oh,
ago.
fantastic. Yeah, we love a good local chain of, especially when it's in this nerdy variety. They have, this seems like a very common looking retailer that they aren't getting any exclusive merch, but they have their suppliers. They make sure that they are getting good stock of everything. So that's nice. Uh, T Shark, see them a lot of places. That one of the fun things for me as someone who works conventions a lot, and even if you just attend conventions and don't work them with frequency, that you will start to recognize vendors that not only ones that have specific merch or artists with a particular style, but there are plenty of businesses that do not have a brick and mortar location. Their entire business is they travel around the country all year long setting up shop, and that like a normal brick and mortar store they will buy their stock from normal retailer or not retailers, wholesalers or vendors, suppliers, and just sell at conventions. And that's how they make their business, and it is entirely viable if you are able to get to the right shows and have the right mix, because it can still be tough. But
Yeah.
here we see a whole bunch of blind boxes. Some conventions have actually banned blind boxes. In some cases, it's
Yeah,
actually
I can see
a
why.
legal matter because some states
Yep,
consider blind boxes of that sort to be gambling. So I
I can
actually
see that.
remember, I think it might have been Anime Boston one year that they weren't allowed. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I know it's happened at least once that I've seen. There there was a time a couple of years ago, like 2017, 18, where the number of those types of blind box vendors were becoming very, very common very quickly, and that most conventions have at least clamped down and said, okay, even if we are going to have one of these, we're only going to have one at our convention. That do you know what a jury system is for exhibit halls and artist alleys, Jace?
I think I've heard of it before.
So a jury
Um,
system is when you have a panel, a jury of the event's staff who goes through applications and decides who is going to get into the exhibit hall, that they will have open applications. It is not first come, first serve. It is all right. You are able to apply until X date when we close our applications, and you need to supply, this is your website, this is the type of stuff you stock, some pictures of your inventory, pictures of your art if you're an artist, and that the jurying process is not necessarily for one of quality. There is obviously going to be cursory guidance of make sure that whoever's applied seems legitimate and that they just aren't, selling really junky or obviously bootlegged products. But the primary goal of a juried exhibit hall or artist alley is to create product diversity. That if you
hmm,
have 10 blind box vendors or 10 Funko Pop vendors that just happen to get in very early and half the hall is blind boxes and Funko, even if there are people there that want to buy those products, all 10 of those vendors are going to have a bad weekend because the number of products that is going to be sold, that it's too much competition in that space. Similarly, for attendees, they're going to be bummed because, like, wow, there's so many vendors with the same stuff and I want to see other stuff. So, what most conventions have been doing lately is these juries, because this lets them make sure that they have that diversity of vendors that they're having. Okay, we'll make sure there is someone with Funko Pops, there is someone with comics. All right, we're going to also make sure we have a small handful of figure sellers, not too many. And then in the artist alley, let's make sure that it's not all this particular type, or they don't all have specialties of this same game or franchise. And it creates a better environment, not just, like I said, for the attendees, but for the sellers as well, because it makes sure that they are not going to end up walking away having not made money because half the hall was selling their products.
Yeah, no, I can totally see that, considering the fact that you want variety of product in any kind of marketplace too, because nobody wants to walk into a dealer's room and go, "Oh, there's like 50,000 people selling like DBZ figures, or 50,000 people selling pops." Like,
I've seen
finding like
shows
everything
where
selling all one kind of thing is just boring,
I have seen a small convention where it felt like a third of the vendors were selling Funko Pops. And I was looking around saying, oh no, this is not good for anybody here. So it's a very practical system. And that's just one of the things that most convention attendees aren't necessarily going to be aware of. I don't expect them to be aware of it. This isn't meant to be you should understand how all these systems work. But I'm, as always, sort of a business and logistics nerd, and I find this stuff fascinating. And hopefully folks who might be listening, watching, can appreciate this sort of behind the scenes factor that goes into making conventions as good as they can be, that they might not have been aware of or realized is happening, because that is an effort. It takes time. That there are sometimes really tough decisions that juries have to make, especially if you have a smaller exhibit hall. That I've seen smaller but growing conventions get 2 to 3 times the number of applications for spots they have in the hall. And it is rough at times.
Yeah. I've been to conventions where like I've just seen way too many of the same thing and just kind of groaned and rolled my eyes and went like, this is kind of sad and pathetic. Like, why am I even here? So I want to spend my money. That's why I save money to go to these events. And when there's nothing to buy, you kind of leave almost a little disappointed.
Yeah. I saw a sign up there for I saw a sign up there for kids panels, so that's exciting. Of just when you're able to actually have dedicated children's programming. Ooh, Jolteon Mandalorian hats. Okay. Not the crossover I expected, but those were clean. Those looked good. And they even had the little lights on the visors.
I saw that actually at the Anime Con too this past summer.
Huh. So what's the weather like outside? I know it's starting to get cold over on the East Coast. Oh, there's Saitama.
Oh, yep, there's the other Saitama.
Just a hero for fun.
Yep. I'm walking actually into the other half of the building, the Amica Mutual Pavilion.
I appreciate a venue that has a internal walkway, sky bridge, or anything that makes so you don't have to walk outside, because even if the weather is good, there's, it could be raining, or if it's in the middle of the summer and it's very, very hot out, or the middle of the winter.
Yeah.
Like, I worked Anime Milwaukee this past year, and, well, Milwaukee in February is flippin' cold.
Oh, it is. It is breezy, to say the least. It is at least like 40 degrees, I want to say, around here right now. Probably going to be freezing tonight when I get out of here. Guaranteed. Thank God my car is in a parking garage. But
what was the parking cost? What was the parking cost?
20 per day.
Oof. Sounds right, though. Yeah. That's just kind of how it goes. All right. Yeah. Looking around, I would need to see the actual square footage to truly gauge, because that dealer's hall was big, not enormous. That the litmus test I use is Anime Expo is 120,000 folks. And you look at that venue, how big it is, how crowded it is. And I'm looking at this, and this is a big venue. My guess though, is that they are using Turnstile. This seems like a 30 to 50,000 attendee convention, which is still much bigger than I realized that it was. That full respect to Rhode Island Comic Con, that anytime if you have gotten your convention to be more than 10,000, you are doing something very right. That is a success. That is, you are now an anomaly. You are in the upper echelons of conventions in North America. But I don't think this looks like 100,000 people.
Oh, keep in mind that it's also the
It is
Friday of
Friday.
the
That's
convention.
okay.
You
That's true. That's
know,
true.
the convention VIPs get access
Yeah.
at 2 o'clock, and then it opened to the public at 3 o'clock. So this is the concourse level of the Amica Pavilion. So this is kind of sort of a second dealers area of sorts. And then if we went down to the lower level from here, it would be even more autographs, specifically like big name autographs,
Mm-hmm.
like where it's going to be like huge lines for the largest name people.
Yeah. And
That's
looking at
also
some of the
where I
listed.
posted the picture of where that giant appa was.
Yes, I saw that on their website that there's a guy that has this effectively life-size giant appa, which is really cool. Looking at some of their guests, you already mentioned a couple that they don't have a ton of anime presence. Sadly, I'm actually scrolling through to see if there's any now that I'm thinking about it. Oh no, wait, no,
Well, because
They have Eric Vale.
they had the Anime Con this past summer. That's why.
Yeah, that makes sense that they probably wouldn't have too much overlap. Obviously, Eric Vale, very well known for a lot of different shows that he was Vegeta. Where'd it go? Uh, Eric. Nope, that doesn't work. Ooh, just thought I saw. Sorry, I'm scrolling. Oh, they have Carrie Elwes. Ooh, the Dread Pirate Roberts from Princess Bride. Also has played just a lot of other very fun roles. They've Chris Sanderson, who Nightmare Before Christmas again from Princess Bride. See here, Daniel Ross, who has played some kind of iconic mascot characters. That he played Donald Duck, Lucky the Leprechaun from the cereal, Lucky Charms, also Grimace. Oh my gosh, I wonder how many people are
Walk
doing
through
like
actually.
Grimace shake things for Daniel Ross this weekend. I wonder if that has changed his priority on that whole
Here's
social media thing.
here's a look right here. Actually, at that. If I walk down there, actually, we could get a look at the vehicles there.
Yeah, you're getting a little bit grainy. We're still coming in clear. I see they have Erica Harlocker, who I've actually have had the pleasure of working with at a con. She is very, very nice. She's done a lot of roles. She is in Demon Slayer. She is on in Persona 5. She's in Genshin Impact. Well, many are. She was also, I think she was Yumiko in Kakegurui, if memory serves.
Huh.
They have Hayden Wall, who's Starfire, also in Lucky Star. So a couple extra anime credits there. Yeah, they have a very solid lineup here. Ooh, they have LeVar Burton. Always love to see him at places.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's very interesting of the.
This is.
Ooh, sorry, Jace, you there?
Keep this whole signal.
Ooh, we're breaking up. We're breaking
Don't
up a
know
bit,
if
Jace. Yeah, well,
don't know if I'm gonna lose signal or not.
yeah, you're losing signal
Am
a bit.
I?
Yeah, we might be losing him.
Uh,
Stand by, folks. Like we said, this is pretty experimental.
uh,
My guess is he's just going
okay,
through sort of a choke point in terms of signal. That at least so far, things have been going pretty well. So, learning as always. Yeah, just stand by a bit, folks. But Oop. Well, in the meantime, I'll ramble a little bit. As always, don't forget to check out our YouTube page where you can see the trailer for Kokoro no Pro, and you can play the demo for Kokoro no Pro on our itch.io page. That being our wrestling visual novel being headed up by RJ and Mario. Really excited to actually have that demo up and playable now for a little over a month, actually. So definitely take some time for that. Last weekend, we had our
Can you hear
Young
me?
Frankenstein reunion. Oh, yes, I think we are back.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think that was just
All
sort of a
right.
bad
Yeah.
area.
So more dealers area.
And it seems that they have the artists mixed in with the dealers, that some places will have a dedicated artist alley where specifically only uh, original made stuff is sold versus the exhibit hall slash dealers hall, which will usually be limited to if it is, manufactured products, but others will just blend them all together. And that seems to be the case here, just judging from the ones that we're passing. Video quality is, eh, we'll call it early YouTube days right now. But again, that's just going to be how this goes. But in general, Jace, is there anything that you're looking
Yeah.
forward to this weekend? Any panels? I know that you have the autographs you're looking for, but any of the events that you have on your schedule?
Well, actually, there's uh, a presentation that you can join in the Saber Guild,
You're
where you can.
garbling up. Sorry, Jace, you're getting real garbled. I think you might need to move out of
Right.
this hall. I think it's that you're just underground, it seems, and that's really messing with the signal.
See.
Well, he's certainly getting his steps in today.
All right. Let's see. You guys coming in now?
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit better here. Yeah. So you were saying that there was a
Okay.
presentation for something that you're looking forward to.
Uh, yeah. So there are groups across the United States that do Star Wars lightsaber sparring, and they're going to have various times set up for both adults and kids to
Oh,
take part in it.
I saw that on
So,
the
as somebody
website that
who
it was
did
like
martial arts,
saber classes. That's really cool because I've seen, and we
yep.
mentioned earlier in the show, the 501st Legion, which is the official, unofficial Star Wars cosplay group that they are independently run, but that they have done official partnerships with Star Wars, Lucasfilm, Disney, that very famously for The Mandalorian, that they realized instead of making the stormtrooper outfits, it was more efficient for them to put out the call to the local 501st chapter and say, if you come to this shooting location for a couple days, that they were mostly just standing around looking menacing, that it was more efficient for them to pay those folks who already had made fitted stormtrooper uniforms than to actually make them and then probably discard them after the production. I know also that there have been folks that have been paid to go to red carpet premieres that have stood alongside the executives or the actors for different publicity events. I know that they've been brought in by hospitals across the world for different Make-A-Wish or just general, special days at hospitals or other facilities to help cheer up kids. And that like I've spoken to people who have said, "Boy, I'm glad that I was wearing a mask for that because I was crying when I was like seeing the happy reaction of this kid who's been in the hospital for 2 years." And that they do very, very good work. Yeah, we lost you again, Jace.
Uh, lost lost
Yeah,
me
that
again.
yeah, that I think go on back to where you started because we are getting toward the end of the show anyway, so we'll wrap things up there and be able to get you at least clean for a bit, and then I'll let you go so you can wander and just enjoy the convention. But thank you to folks who have
Uh,
whoop, Yeah, and thanks to folks who've bared with us. Like we said, this was going to be a bit of an experiment. And well, the learning was this is viable pending the location because early on, when we were in the dealer's hall, when we were in that hallway, even the sky bridge, signal was fine. We were all good. And then it seems the other part of the venue obviously did not quite cooperate, but still cool to see things for what you're able to see, even if it's very pixelated and choppy. Uh, I almost would worry about
Apparently,
getting
the
lost in here. This place feels like a maze. There's so much going on. This is a very sprawling convention.
it's not as bad as it seems, really.
Mm,
Considering that it's really just the uh, the Amica, uh, the Amica and the convention center,
mm.
really, and a little bit of economy, but yeah, not really a lot of panels. Few things going on. Like a few panels here and there, but mostly this Comic Con is here to sell things and sell autographs, and that's about it.
Yeah, it does seem like one of those. Obviously, we can see from the guest list a more guest focused convention. That's fine. That there's a big market for that, and I'm excited for all the folks this weekend that are going to be able to meet the different folks who have been voices of their lives, their childhood, and that there's going to be a lot of special moments this weekend, I'm sure, and I'm very happy for that. And I hope you have a good time with the Saber class and all of your interactions and autographs that you get to have. And thank you for helping us at least try to have this very first ever DEEi live on location show. And even if we
Yeah.
broke down a little bit during the later part, we actually started off really strong. And now we know if we do this again next year, okay, you just sort of stick to that first part of the venue. But
Well, we'll stick to the convention center and not
mhm,
the amp, because
yeah.
seems like we get no signal down on the amp floor, which is a shame because that's where all the vehicles were. There literally was a police car from the Raccoon City Police Department down there.
Yeah, I did see the
I
Ghostbusters
don't know.
vehicle
I
for a
don't know.
moment.
You guys didn't get a chance to see the Raccoon City Police Department, huh?
No, I don't think so. Or if
I'll
it
have
was,
to.
it was
I'll have
kind
to
of
take,
garbled.
I'll have to take some photos. I'll have to take some photos, and that gives us an excuse to plug the Discord.
Yes, indeed. You
Photos of
can.
my excursion will be in the Discord.
Yeah, we have our conversation channel for when we're at cons or there's announcements regarding cons. So you can join the discussion over at the Discord, and you can like, follow, subscribe here on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And like I mentioned, on our YouTube channel, you can see the trailer for Kokoro no Pro, and on our itch.io page, you can play the demo for Kokoro no Pro. You can find our friends Image Anime at imageanime.com and use the code DESCOUNTSHIP, that is DEESCOUNTSHIP, for free shipping on orders of $100 or more. And you can get Digital Era Entertainment merchandise from merch.streamelements.com/Digital Era Entertainment. Again, Jace, thank you so much. We are not actually going to be having happy hour this week. Folks are obviously out and about, but we'll be having that more in the future. So thank you so much for tuning in. Stay safe, stay sane, and we will see you next time on Digital Era Twitch.
Goodbye, Sandra.
Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and follow us across social media for updates. Thanks for watching!